Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's get started. We're going to talk about browse privacy, how browsers are important. Pretty much every one of us is using browser, I suppose, right? Fingerprinting and VPN tests. What you need to know, everything here to be able to protect yourself. Now, this isn't going to be a very long video. I'm not going to make it very technical. However, I'm planning to make a new video where I'll show you specific browser setup that I do, which ensures that I have the maximum security using Firefox browser. Now, let's start. What you need to know, how browser fingerprinting works. Now, browser gives a lot of information about you, whether you create an account that some browsers they don't require, but it's optional, right? Especially Microsoft Edge is known for that. How they can get information about you and pretty much identify you one-to-one who you are just by using fingerprinting and what that is. Now, just you can see here in screenshot, right? Just by using an iPhone, it's pretty simple to understand by display and phones, right? Screen resolution, installed phones. What phones are installed? Some browsers have different phones, right? Some phones that use browsers, mobile versions have different. Browser and OS. Now, by just sending headers, which pretty much every website does at the moment, they are able to identify what browser you're on and the operating system you're using. Just because you are using Linux, for example, that already will put you in the 2% possibility of all users in the world, right? So that is another thing you need to remember. Browsers are very invasive and they send a lot of information about you. Hardware, they're also often be able to identify your GPU details, CPU cores, and device memory. Very crucial thing. And by settings, right? If you have browser settings set to German, there is a slight chance that you're from Germany, right? Pretty simple. They don't even need your IP address. No one even cares if you're using something like a VPN or proxy. Just by not having proper browser sanitization and using basic fingerprinting, every website can know who you are at that point, right? You can't really hide yourself. So you need to be able to understand. Now, testing 10 browsers, for example. Before you go and test yourself, I'll give you some important things and I'll give you my preference as well. Obviously, let me give you a spoiler. A conclusion will be there is no such thing as a best browser. You can customize any browser you want. However, I would advise you to use, if you want something popular, right, that has good support, maybe Firefox. It's also known to not be the best, but Firefox has the nature of being able to be customized to whatever you want. However, if you want something more niche, I would go with something like Chromium. This is just me testing, right? So I've used I can name so many browsers this point. I've even used something like Vivaldi. Some of you may have not heard of it. Many of you probably think Vivaldi is the only name of the composer, right? I believe. But that's not the only thing. There's a Vivaldi browser. I don't know why I'm talking about it that much. Chrome, obviously, Firefox, Edge, Chromium. I've used so many of them. But Opera, the Opera GX, the other version, none of them can compare to Chromium or Firefox customizability. And some extensions as well. Some browsers have very good extensions. Firefox again. You need to be able to block ads, block third-party cookies, and known trackers by default. Now, if you want to make sure that you have the best security, I would advise you to browse from the most cliche way possible. What I mean is just using full HD resolution, right? 1920 by 1080, using Windows and using Chromium, right? Just using some kind of proxy inside the browser, using like Foxy proxy. And by the way, if you want proxies, check out app CyberYozh and use the code David to get a bit off the discount. But if you want just the best version, using something like a proxy, then the most common things possible, right? As I said, to not be able to be super unique, because the best way to blend in and to hide yourself is in a crowd, right? Where you're just part of everyone else. Make sure you do that. And obviously, you also need good speed and performance. So I would say something like Chromium is a bit more light than Firefox. So if you have some hardware capable, like things that can cause you to lag a bit, then use a lighter browser, obviously. Now, VPN testing, right? What actually matters here? A VPN is not like some magic anonymity link. Don't believe anyone who says that. VPNs they don't necessarily hide your traffic. Whatever you do, VPNs get. And there's pretty much the only one VPN, which is not sponsored, just from what I know, is Mulvat, I believe, which can I think they were raided and they didn't give any information because they genuinely don't have it, since I believe they're from Sweden. So just using a VPN is not going to save you if you're doing something strange, because everything VPN can keep. And the no-log policy, don't believe any of it. VPNs are great if you want to change country to watch Netflix. I get that. But for privacy, just don't even bother. And make sure that even if you do use that, and proxies as well, do a DNS leak test. That's pretty important. Using a proper link test to understand, because if it hides your IP address but not DNS, at that point it's just useless, right? Speed impact. Also remember to choose a good proxy, which is why I'm saying up CyberYozh. Don't go and choose find online like free proxies. That's just garbage. They're not going to do anything. Don't bother with that. Proxies can also, like free proxies like that, they'll just make it impossible and super slow to use. And if your country allows it and it's legal, make sure to check legality before taking this advice, because in most countries it is legal, in some are not. Using Tor, and I'm not saying Tor browser, just using like a Tor overlay in Firefox, for example, can be good as well, right? Tor and proxy, a bit slower, but at least you'll know you have like 4-layer protection, right? Check logging policy if you use VPN. As I said, don't believe any of them, but at least check like which ones have proven to have logs, which one have like been in court and just given the information anyway, right? Publicly. That's pretty important. And security features as well. Something like kill switch, strong encryption, and modern protocols are pretty important. Now, comparing privacy-focused browsers, you need to know that some browsers have built-in tracker blocking. For example, Brave is pretty good with that, right? One of my also favorite browsers. I would say if you're really against Firefox and you don't want cliche Chromium, not cliche, sorry, niche Chromium, then use Brave. And remember, why I'm saying Brave, because it has good privacy features built in, and it also uses the default Chrome extension, so everything that works on Chrome will work in Brave. It's just built on top of Chromium, right? So you're good to go with that. But again, be careful, please, and just using browser, but then going on like logging into account, you just ruin everything. So if you want private browsing, I would suggest use one for your work. Find one browser for your work. Like Google Chrome is okay, like if you don't care about privacy, just for work, like basic accounts that you log in, do some stuff. But if you want actual private browsing, everyday use outside of work, or anything pretty much, I would go with like Brave, Firefox, or Chromium. Those are my 3 choices in this case. And final resort. As I said, which browser wins? There is no such thing as single best browser. That's not how that works. The right choice depends on your needs. I would advise to use 2 to 3 browsers. Repeat this again, 2 to 3 browsers. One is whatever, if it's for your work, not your accounts, like corporate accounts, whatever, doesn't matter. But one, like Firefox, Brave, or Chromium, for your privacy. Use proper extensions. Don't install every other extension. 2 or 3 are enough mostly, right? To block tracking, block ads, stuff like that. And make sure to, and again, I'm not saying block ads on every website, but some ads are genuinely malicious, right? Please bear them in mind. And again, complex settings, remember, can reduce real-world adoption. That's also pretty important. Make sure there's device compatibility, so you can use the browser, the same one that you want, privacy on mobile, desktop, and preferably both. Not gonna name them, you already know, but they work on both. Understand your privacy risks, it's very important. Browser can pretty much identify one-to-one who you are, just if you use the default Edge or Chrome. Don't bother with it. Please be careful, stay vigilant, your privacy is important. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.